You're listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hardscape Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Alex from TechnoBlock, and today we're going to do something a little different. I dug up some notes from a book that I read a couple of years ago called The Amazon Management System, and I figured this might be relevant at this time of year. It's November, the end of the season is approaching, and a new one is going to begin soon. And if you're not thinking about what to change in your business yet, it's pretty much time to start doing that. So I figured sharing with you some of the insights and some of the core ideas from this book might be relevant. And you might be sitting there thinking, what the heck does the management methodology of the world's largest retailer and technology provider have anything to do with my hardscaping business? Well, I think there's a school of thought that just says business is business. And if it works for them, it'll probably work in some way, shape, or form for you. So what I'm going to do here is run through the 6 building blocks that Amazon has built their whole empire on. And then I'm going to dive into a couple of the things that I feel will probably be the most helpful in terms of long-term thinking and big picture thinking as you look to grow your business into the future. So the first thing that I'm going to hit here, like I said, is the 6 building block. The first one as being a business model which is 100% customer obsessed. I really like this one a lot. Not only because I love my customers, but also because I find that a lot of businesses, and I guess Amazon agrees with this stance, a lot of businesses and a lot of business leaders will focus on their competitors. You'll be obsessed with how do I beat them instead of worrying about how do I win. And if you are not paying attention to how do you win, and you're only focused on how do you not lose, well, you're setting yourself up for potential failure, because if all you're doing is one-upping the other guys in town, today you're on top, tomorrow you're not. The next day you're on top, the next day you're not. So if you want to avoid finding yourself in that situation, you have to really focus on who are my customers and why do they love us and how can we do the most of that possible. And is there anything that they're really looking for that no one else is doing that I could maybe do? And that's how you can carve out a niche. That's how you can really create a reputation as being unique. And that's how you can get out of the rat race of fighting on price or fighting on any of the other things that are more costly to fight on. When you're the absolute best at something and you're the only one that does it, that's the sweet spot. And the way to get there, or at least part of it, is being 100% customer obsessed. So what actions can you take to be customer obsessed? I think one of them can be to survey your customers. And that you can use tools like SurveyMonkey or things like that. But you can also just pick up the phone and call customers. Call your 10 of your customers from this year, from last year, from the year before, from the year before that, and just ask them, what was it that was great about the experience working with you? What was not great about the experience working with you? So that you can do more of the things that they love and address the things that they hate, so that you can give them the best experience possible. That's one of the ways I think you can be customer obsessed, and it will help level up your business going into the future. The second building block is an ongoing effort to raise the bar for talent. This one is particularly interesting. I haven't really met anyone like this, but I've heard it a lot, that people are hesitant to hire people who could potentially be smarter than them or more talented than them or have more experience than them, out of fear of looking bad or out of fear of getting pushed out of their job. I don't think you should have that fear if it's your company. First of all, I don't think you should have that fear, period, because if you're hiring great people, you can get them to do great things that you never could. And that's the whole goal, is to build a team so that you can achieve all the things that you cannot do on your own. But one of the interesting things that's highlighted in the book that I really found to be insightful, and it's probably a good piece of advice, especially if you're a small business owner and you're not doing a lot of hiring. You know, if you're conducting interviews, 2, 3, 4 interviews a quarter every year for 10 years, you're pretty good at interviews, or at least you have enough experience that you should be pretty good at interviews. But a lot of contractors are not hiring that many people and are not doing that many interviews throughout a year. So you have very limited experience. So what they do at Amazon is they have someone who is appointed to be the talent bar raiser. Their job is to sit in on the interview, to assess the performance of the interviewer and the interviewee, and to ensure that if we hire this person, they are making us better. They're not just making us fill a hole. This isn't just a person that can get the job done. We can build, we can do great things with this person. And I think that's interesting because especially when you're the one who's scheduling the interview, finding the people, asking the questions, trying to get a read on the person across the table from you, trying to figure out how they fit in your organization, and juggling the 10,000 other things that are going on in the back of your mind, you can lose a little bit of focus. If you have an extra person there whose only job is to make sure this interview is killer and you get the absolute best candidate possible, that gives you an edge. So I really like that one. And that's number 2, ongoing effort to raise the bar for talent. Always hire the best people possible, people who you can build with, A players. Number 3, this one comes with a little asterisk on it. They use AI, powered data and metric systems, but without necessarily involving AI. I think there's low versions of AI in everything we do today, but still, the more important thing is data and metrics systems. Tracking your production hours, tracking your labor hours, your machine hours, tracking your leads, your conversion of leads to sales, your profitability on sales. Are there certain types of projects that are more profitable than others? Are there certain components of projects that are more profitable than others? Digging into the data and analyzing it allows you to fine-tune your business, because your business is a lot like a machine. And if you can tune it well, you'll get the most out of it. Number 4, groundbreaking new innovation machine. They're always innovating. They're always trying to bring something new to market. You may not need to invent anything to be an innovative hardscaper. You could be looking at different ways to manage stormwater on a property. It could be channel drains, trough drains, cache basins. It could be permeable pavement. And then where does that water go? Does it go to a drainage swale? Does it go to a dry well? Does it go to a reservoir? Does it go to a rainwater harvesting system? There are ways to innovate that will give you an edge in the market. And the more of these different things that you understand, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more solutions you have to bring to your customers, the more you can provide them the greatest value possible. And that ties right back into point number 1, which is being customer obsessed. So innovation. You need to always be trying new things and trying to find new solutions. Otherwise, you'll get left behind. Number 5, high velocity and high quality decision making. We've heard the cliche paralysis by analysis. It's easy to get pulled into that, especially when every decision you make, the buck stops at 8:30. I don't know why I did that, John. It's tough to make those decisions when with so much writing on the line, but you have to have the guts to make decisions with a minimum of information. And if I scroll down through my notes to just go find that section specifically, the advice that they have there is they make speed the top priority. What that means is it's not the perfect decision. Is it the best decision in the fastest time possible? Because that keeps moving the business forward. So instead of having a one-size-fits-all decision-making strategy, they break decisions down into type 1 or type 2 decisions. This is where it gets interesting. Type 1 decisions are consequential and irreversible. They call them one-way doors. These need to be made methodically, carefully, slowly, with great deliberation and consultation. So, for example, you need to buy a major property and you need to decide if you're going to move across town or not. This is kind of a one-way door because once you buy into that property, especially if you need to finance it or anything, you need to make sure that this is a well thought out move. Other moves are two-way doors. They're changeable and they're reversible. Applying the same heavy process of pros and cons and carefully, slowly, and asking people questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? That makes you risk averse. That makes you slow. So two-way doors are the decisions we tend to make every day, every week, every month. Those ones we should be pretty quick. Also, don't make all the decisions by yourself. Type 2 decisions should be delegated, as they can and should be made quickly by high judgment individuals or small teams. So on one of the episodes we did with Wes from Synced Up, we were talking about how it's important to have your number 2 and number 3 and a number 4. If every person on your team has someone they can trust and you can delegate a decision down to, that means they can delegate a decision down and you can make things happen faster in your business. And as your company grows, this may be less relevant if you're a 2-3 person crew, but as you build your business to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, and once your growth starts going, you get there pretty quick. You need to be able to delegate out that decision making. Otherwise, you're the bottleneck for everything. The other thing that they say is don't wait for all the information. Bezos uses the 70 to 90 rule. Most decisions should probably be made somewhere around 70% of the information you wish you had. If you wait for 90%, in most cases, you're probably being slow. Plus, either way, you need to be good at quickly recognizing and correcting bad decisions. That's an important thing. You can't make every decision perfectly. But when you make a bad one, you need to be quick to identify, oh, I made the bad decision. I need to correct the situation. If you're good at course correcting, being wrong can be less costly than you think, whereas being slow is going to be expensive for sure. It's going to be expensive because of the opportunities lost. And then finally, let the metrics owner make the call. So if you have someone who is an expert in a specific thing, let's say, like you would let your designer make the decision on a final design call, are we doing a basket weave or are we doing a herringbone? If you have a designer on staff and they're really saying like this is the best choice for this project and you trust that designer because that's why they're there, you hired them for that role and you're always raising the bar for talent, so you have the best designer you can find, you let them make that call. So when you have an accountant and they're saying we should do this with the investment, you should trust them with that. You make the final call in the end, but let them influence that decision to the point where it's 99% them. You have that 1% veto power, but you're letting them drive on those things. That also breeds a lot of ownership within your team where people know that it's their responsibility to make this part of the business the absolute best it can be, and they're responsible for making the right decisions. That helps you build a stronger team that can grow and can run the business without you necessarily there. Because if you have to make every decision on every single part of the business, you've just made yourself a really complicated job. You have a very tough business to hand off or to sell or to pass down to future generations or anything like that. So that's on the topic of number 5, decision making. And I'm going to come back up to number 6 of the 6 building blocks, which is a forever day one company culture. That forever day one company culture is something that is basically translated to don't rest on your laurels. Don't rest on your reputation. It's not because all of your business comes in from word of mouth today that you should not do any marketing. It's not because you're known as the biggest and best in town that you should just ride that wave. The way that they put in the book is Amazon genuinely believes it's still at the beginning of its growth, not the end. The company is absolutely committed to combining the scale and size of a big company with the speed and agility of a startup. Amazon continuously upgrades its organizational capabilities. So the big takeaway here is at the early stage of business, a founder or a founding team runs everything. And as the business enjoys success and grows, it outgrows the capacity of the founding team, and the organization is forced to expand. You're forced to hire new people. Back to that decision-making part. Early in the process, the organization will still function with speed, with nimbleness, and a risk acceptance mentality because you're making that decision. And if you're taking that risk, you're comfortable with taking that risk. But if you have to delegate to someone else who has to take that risk, you get nervous because it's not your judgment. Now you have to trust someone else's judgment. So you have to make sure that you maintain that day one mentality of it's okay to take risks. That's how we grow. It's okay to try new things. That's how we grow. We have to make this decision quickly because that's how we're going to make the most revenue come in because we really need that revenue today. That mentality is what helps fight the complacency that keeps you having that aggressive edge in the marketplace. And we see it a lot. You'll see companies that are like, bah, 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 they're on fire. And then all of a sudden they just kind of plateau and they hang out and they stagnate. And then you see their brand doesn't change. Their designs don't change. Their equipment, is getting older and older and older. And before you know it, you look 10 years later, they're not the leader in the market anymore. But they had a massive edge. They just sat on it. So always with that day one thinking, I think that's really important. And to do that, you need to have really simple processes and really clear decision-making rules, and you need to have the right people that you can trust. So that's why all of these building blocks tie together. I hope that makes sense. I want to just end this episode with one other part here, which is their leadership values. I'm just going to go find that page I wrote for that. Yeah, their leadership principles. So they have 14 leadership principles. And, in that quest to constantly raise the bar for talent and find the right people, that person who is responsible for that in the interview, they are really looking to see if these people have these principles. Because if you're not hiring future leaders, then your business cannot grow with those people. You need to hire people who can take the next step if you want your business to take the next step. Otherwise, you cannot delegate the responsibilities that you have. You need people who can grow, who will take ownership over things. So let's look at what those 14 leadership principles are and how they're relevant for almost every single role that you'll ever hire anyone for.
This episode is brought to you by Hardscaper.com. The Hardscaper mission is to empower industry professionals with the skills, inspiration, and confidence they need to take their businesses to new heights. Struggling with training programs for your team? Looking for helpful tips to build a better company? Subscribe today to gain access to hours of interactive on-demand hardscape construction and business courses for free. Check out hardscaper.com.
The first one is customer obsession. We talked about the importance of that at the beginning. It's the number one core building block at Amazon, and it's the number one leadership principle. Is this person obsessed with the customer? And then working backwards with how do we solve for the customer's problem? How do we earn and keep the customer's trust? How do we pay attention to competitors, but obsess over delivering for our customer? That's number one. Number two is ownership. Leaders are owners. They take their ownership over the role that they have in the company. They think long-term and they don't sacrifice long-term value for short-term results. What's that mean? We're not cutting corners to deliver the job today on time so that I can get my bonus for this project, because if we do that, in 2 years, we're going to have to come back to repair this project, and that's going to hurt the reputation of the company and potentially hurt my career opportunities down the road. So we're going to do it once, we're going to do it right. I'm going to take ownership over my responsibility as the foreman on this job to do things properly. They act on behalf of the entire company beyond just their own team. They never say, that's not my job. Ownership, that's number two. Number three, invent and simplify. Leaders expect and require innovation and invention from their teams and are always finding ways to simplify. They're extremely aware. They look for new ideas from everywhere and are not limited by not invented here. As we do new things, we accept that we may be misunderstood for long periods of time. That means they're not afraid to try new things. They're not afraid to bring new ideas to the table. They're not afraid to say, you know what? I know that we're screeding our sand with these screed boards and we're on our hands and knees, but I've been seeing on YouTube these screeders from Pave Tool where we can screed like 15 feet with the machine, and we can do that pretty effectively, and we already have the machine on site. I think we should try it. Here, look at this video. They're bringing new ideas to the table to help advance the overall benefit of the team and of the company. Number four, they're right a lot. What that means is they have good judgment, they have good instincts. They seek diverse perspectives, so they ask questions, and they work to disconfirm their beliefs. That means I believe something, I'm going to ask questions to challenge my own beliefs to make sure that I'm right, so that my judgment is validated and I have more confidence to make more of the right decisions. Especially important for any of the leadership roles in your company. Good judgment, good instincts, and ask for examples of that. Ask them for stories of like how. Tell me a story of where you had to use your judgment in a tough situation, or where your instincts led you in the right direction for making a decision for your company. Tougher for like more entry level positions, but definitely when you get into management positions for your company, that's a great question or a great line of questions to go down. Learn and be curious. Keep learning. They're never done learning. They're always seeking to improve themselves. They're always curious about new possibilities and act to explore them. So not just learn the thing, try the thing, then make your decision on whether or not it's good. They hire and develop the best. Leaders raise the bar with every hire and promotion. They recognize exceptional talent and willingly move them throughout the organizations. Leaders develop leaders and take seriously their role in coaching others. We work on behalf of our people to invent mechanisms for development, in this case, like career choice, where they have basically a career path where you enter the Amazon world, and based on your skills and your experience and how you contribute to the company, you can go in all sorts of directions because of how big and how vast and how varied that company's products and services are. So even within your own company, someone can start as a laborer and work their way into design, or work their way into marketing, or work their way into sales, or even work their way into a CEO position. All these options are there if you have the right structure and you are hiring the right people that they could get there one day. They insist on the highest standards. They have relentlessly high standards. Many people think these standards are unreasonably high. But when you have those high standards and you're continuously raising that bar, your teams will adapt to that and will continuously try to outdo themselves. And that in of itself will give your business a competitive edge, especially, again, if we come back to that first one, if they're customer obsessed, because every little detail that the customer cares about will be done perfectly. Thinking big, thinking small is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you think in a limited mindset, a mindset of scarcity, well, then everything's a problem and you're always worried about losing your lunch. But if you are thinking big and thinking in a market of abundance and there's all kinds of possibilities, you can find all kinds of ways to serve your customers, all kinds of ways to grow the business, all kinds of ways to market your services, all kinds of ways to impress people in the marketplace, to create word of mouth, to create buzz, to build a brand. Think big. You have a bias for action. We talked about the speed of decision making. Frugality, accomplish more with less. How can we be smart about how we use our budgets so that we're not burning through them? Because especially in the next coming years, it's going to be tight. So how can we get the most bang for our buck? They earn trust. To earn trust, you need to listen attentively, you need to speak candidly, and you need to treat others respectfully. They're vocally self-critical. So even if I mess something up, I'll admit that I messed it up. Leaders do not believe their or their team's body odor smells of perfume, is a quote from the book. So when you know you mess something up, you own it, you fix it, you address it. Basically, they're always trying to do what's best for their team, for their people, and for the company at the same time. They dive deep. Leaders operate at all levels, stay connected to the details, audit frequently, and are skeptical when metrics and anecdote differ. No task is beneath them. So as a leader, you need to be able to get into the weeds. Even though you're saying, I want to delegate and I don't want to have to be in the weeds with all my teams, all my people, you need to be able to get in there to double check and triple check some things, because sometimes the data will say one thing, but the story you got isn't the same, or your personal experience is not the same. So the data on my dashboard says the outdoor kitchen was built in 14 hours. I've built 20 outdoor kitchens in the last 3 years, and I know that there's no way we built that in 14 hours. So I need to dive into that and see what's up. Did someone make a mistake on the reporting? Did we cut some corners? Did we try something new that is revolutionary that I'm about to discover? You need to be able to dive into those numbers. And again, that's why you need the data and you need the metrics to be able to dive into them. And then the last two, they have backbone, or another word of saying it is disagree and commit. So leaders are obligated to respectfully challenge decisions when they disagree, even when doing so is uncomfortable or exhausting. Leaders have a conviction and are tenacious. They do not compromise for the sake of social cohesion. Once a decision is determined, they commit wholly. So we can have it out. We can debate what we need to do. Once we land on that thing, we're all in. And we're not going to bitch and moan that, if we would have done it the way I said, there's none of that, because we decided we're going in this direction now. So we're going to figure out how to make this work instead of looking backwards. And the last one is delivering results. Leaders focus on the key inputs for their business and deliver them with the right quality and in a timely fashion. Despite setbacks, they rise to the occasion and never settle. Those are the 14 leadership characteristics that Amazon is looking for in everyone that they hire. And it's probably pretty good advice for anyone in a hiring position over the next 6 to 12 months. I hope this helped you. I'm going to make sure that in the episode notes, these are going to be just bulletized so you can refer to them, because I know I'm just reading lists to you. So that might be a little tricky to follow, but hopefully this was helpful for you. And if you like this, put a comment or leave us a review, or send us a message on Instagram at Hardscaper. And if you like this type of content, we'll do more of it. I read a lot of books. And can share more of these insights. And if you didn't like this, well, let us know too. So we don't do this again. We do something else. It's always important to try new things. So that's what we're trying here today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. And until next time, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you next week on the Hardscape Growth Show.
You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business, so make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.